What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome back to the CS podcast. I am your host, Shannon Hughes. It's been quite some time. You might notice that my face is a little fuller. Hmm. That is because I gave birth to our beautiful little girl, Corinne Hughes. She was born April 24th, 2022, and we have been absolutely just enthralled and completely hyper focused on that tiny little person. So took some time off so that we can, appropriately and properly, greet our child and bring her into the world. So took some time off, but I am back in effect. Um, the See Us podcast highlights voices of the invisible, stories untold and people unseen. I'm going to try a new thing, so y'all let me know if this floats or not. Our society is abundant with remarkable people, places, creations, and experiences. Some beautiful, some not so much, and some downright ugly, but they are all worth seeing. What happens when we learn new things about the world around us is that our internal picture of reality becomes more colorful and defined. The stories we hear and tell inform us of how to be with ourselves and others. When those stories go unheard, it could mean that we not only not access community or whole or parts of community, it could also mean erasure of people unheard, which can negatively impact their safety and livelihood. Society is made up of the stories we tell, hear, and believe, and therefore power is a summation of those stories as well. That's why it is so important that we keep telling our stories. We're on a mission to witness true narrative with particular emphasis on the things and people not traditionally covered by mainstream media. Those of us who are made invisible, whose stories are critical yet not valued enough to be included in history. We welcome you on a journey worth taking. Come see us. What y'all think? I'm thinking that'll be a new intro for the actual for the recording of the podcast. So if that floats, let me know. If it's weird, let me know that as well. It'd be helpful. Good evening, Facebook person. I can't see who you are. I'm sorry. So today I'm actually really excited about who we have on. Um, I wanted to come back and have a story that is really important that I don't hear very often, but it impacts a lot of people. And so today, what we're going to be discussing is endometriosis. If you're not familiar, which a lot of people aren't, endometriosis is an often painful disorder in which tissue similar to the tissue that normally lines the inside of your uterus, the endometrium, grows outside of your uterus. Endometriosis most commonly involves your ovaries, fallopian tubes, and the tissue lining of your pelvis. Now, why this was an important story to cover for me is because again, it seems to be a thing that impacts a lot of women. And I only say that because more and more these days I hear a lot of women saying that they have it, and discussing in sort of like close circles, that they have it, that they're struggling with it, that they've had hysterectomies, et cetera, to navigate it, to manage it. But it still feels very quiet, which is weird to me. And come to find out, it is very much that thing. It's like this disorder, disease that impacts so many women. But not only do we not talk about it, there's not a lot of knowledge about it, including in the medical spaces, which is scary. So today we're going to have Fawn Walker-Montgomery on. She has been sharing her own experience with endometriosis, and I'm so thankful to bring her on today. What's up, Fawn? How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain at all. I thank you so much for coming on and being so present with this particular circumstance.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, Fawn, where are you from?
McKeesport.
Where, the Valley?
I'm from the Mon Valley. I'm from Mon Valley, which is about 25 minutes outside the city.
Where
So
that?
I'm from McKeesport.
Awesome, awesome. And I always like to say that, Fawn, you're the only person who reminds me to say, like when we're talking about Pittsburgh, but we're really talking about Allegheny County. You've been the only one that makes sure that we say Allegheny County when we are talking about Allegheny County because we're all very Pittsburgh focused, and I'll claim that for myself as well. But making sure that we're thinking about the valley and the other areas because it's not all just Pittsburgh. So I appreciate
Yes. Oh, thank you. Most people don't, so thank you.
that. Yes, most definitely. What do you do?
Oh, I'm a CEO of a social justice organization, Take Action Mon Valley. So we have been around since 2014. And one of the reasons you just spoke of is why we exist. That's why we call it Take Action Mon Valley, because we really highlight what goes on in the Mon Valley and other areas outside the city of Pittsburgh. So we are a social justice organization that focuses on, of course, social justice and Black liberation.
Yes, most definitely. And I think when we met was around when you and your cousin first started Take Action Mind
Yep.
Valley, and that was with regards to the circumstance with Leroy Powell, was it not?
No, that was with my cousin Carlos Hudson and Jan Randolph. They were killed
Mm,
back in 2000. I think it was might have been 11. But my cousin, his mother May Hudson,
okay.
is the one who went to a meeting that Autumn had, Autumn Perkins,
Hmm.
about we need justice too, and how there was no attention to the Black and brown homicide. So she said, let's have a meeting in McKeesport, and we did. And I was on council at the time.
Mm,
So we just had the police and the community come together to talk about what they can each do differently. And then we just stayed around as a volunteer organization for 4 years. And then we got a fiscal sponsor in 2018 and started to work toward getting our C3. And we have it now. So we're able to, I can do it full time now, and I can have staff. And now we have more community programming. So
beautiful, beautiful. Okay, that's some context for me. I didn't know that it was from 2011. I thought it started at 2014. But
we
that's
did start at 2014. My cousin was murdered around that time. Though.
got you,
And
got
then I
you.
kind of sparked and made it get, yeah.
Yeah, got you. Shout out to Autumn Perkins. Love her to death. Um,
Yes.
beautiful person, beautiful
Hmm.
person.
Yes, she is amazing.
Yes. So, what
Hmm.
are some of the things that y'all do at Take Action Mount Valley?
So the way we take action is we take complaints about any social justice issue from anybody in the county, but of course our focus is the Mon Valley. And what we do with them is we go to court with them. We offer legal assistance, help pay, fines, court fines, fees, connecting with mental health therapy, kind of support them through the process. The police has the system, and all we got is us. So we kind of walk those people through that. So we have our complaints, and then we have chapters. We have chapters in McKeesport and Duquesne, and we have a very active youth chapter. And through our chapters, we work with them on any social justice initiative they want to work on. So they have an action plan, and we do a SWOT analysis to get them there. And then they work on their action plan. And then we have wellness sessions that we do monthly that are based on racism, just getting us together to talk about how racism affects us. And then we also do some consulting and education in the community as well. So you can't pick our brains for free. Got to pay us. So that's a little bit about how, and then we have several different initiatives that we support. Several different, from police accountability to the murders of Black trans women to voting rights. There's so many different initiatives we support. And the way we do that could be a protest, which doesn't always mean you're on the street. It could be a call to action. It could be an event. This is why we do like our family meal giveaways in November. We do that because it's connected to our food initiative. The same thing with our Black Santa. It's Christmas, and then we Black, so we want to make sure we have a Black Santa. So we do that every year as well.
Oh, word. That's beautiful. Like to see how you all have blossomed over the years is quite beautiful. And the impact that has had not only on the valley but Allegheny County overall.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to reach out to Take Action Mind Valley, get involved, receive support,
Hmm.
be a part of the community, how would they do so?
So they can go to our website, which is www.tamv.org, and they can sign up to join the chapter, to volunteer. If they want to file a complaint, you can do everything through our website. You can also email us at takeactionmonvalley@gmail.com.
Word. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, I know that hasn't much to do with today, but I wanted to make sure that that was said because you do such beautiful work, and I want to make sure folks know that. So on to what we're discussing today, endometriosis, which is almost, you know what? I was about to say completely separate, but it's not though, right?
No.
Because a part of it is a medical apartheid, right? Um, so I know, that this is something that you deal with yourself. I, took the liberty of looking into a few different things, and I learned like some really like startling statistics. One being it takes an average of 8 doctor visits to be diagnosed, which is wild. Like I'm thinking about like what it takes for me to go to a doctor visit, like the time it takes to to set it up, like and when it's going to be and all of that. So like to do that in excess of 8 times, like before anyone's like, hey, maybe this is what it is wild. And so to that point, I also learned that the average timeline to be diagnosed is 10 years. So it's 10 years after seeking to be diagnosed, not even like dealing with the symptoms, but seeking to be diagnosed. From that start time to the time actually being diagnosed is average of 10 years.
Yes.
I learned that 40 to 50% of women who are experiencing fertility issues have endometriosis. And I also learned that the likelihood of girls developing endometriosis increases by 7 times if the mother has it. So these are just like some quick, statistics that I learned in the very short research that I did in preparing for this show. And all of those are really, really heavy, really, really startling to me. And it's really wild that there's so little known about endometriosis. So I'm gonna step back. I just want to make sure, excuse me, I said all of those things. But yeah, what has your experience, your journey been like?
My journey has been hell. So it started for me when I was 12. I started to get really bad, I mean, really bad cramps, like leaving school crying. So my mother does have endometriosis, and she's like, "Well, I'm hoping you don't have it, but let's go to the doctor." And I was 12, and I had to get like a gynecological exam. That was not a fun thing for me, but the cramps were that bad. So the doctor said, we can start on birth control because endometriosis is like scar tissue that grows around your uterine lining, and it grows more if you have estrogen. So when you have your period, estrogen occurs. So he was like, she could have it, but I was so young at the time. My mom was like, of course she wasn't going to push something like that. I was already freaking out about the exam. So he said, get on birth control, that'll help. It did. It helped a little bit. And then when I hit 16, it got worse again, and then throwing up and passing out and having to leave school again. So they put me on a different kind, I guess a stronger kind is what they said at the time. So that helped a little bit. And then so I went to college and it started to get bad again. So I had to get on another form of birth control. At this point, it had been 10 years. And I was in college and I started to read up, like, maybe I shouldn't be on birth control. Because I wasn't on it for sex. I was on it because of endometriosis. So I stopped taking it. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't be taking this. I stopped taking it like 22 and a half. I got pregnant at 23. And then after I had my daughter, the endo got extremely worse. I don't know if it was the pregnancy that kind of, brought it out to this worst kind. I was like passing out at work, throwing up. My periods were like hell on earth for me. I was always in the ER, just crying and getting any kind of pain meds that would help. It got to the point where they knew I was coming and they were like, we can give you something to keep you comfortable. I had a gynecologist and I went, and my mom went with me. That woman taught me how to advocate. And she basically cussed the doctor out. And she's like, well, you got to do something because this, like, she's passing out here. So basically, she advocated to get this laparoscopy done. And that's how you get diagnosed with endometriosis.
Now, what
Yeah.
really quickly, what is it called?
It's called a laparoscopy.
Laparoscopy.
Yeah, and I'm probably saying that wrong.
So it's a procedure to
To
diagnose.
diagnose you. Yeah. So she was like, we're going to do that because it's been since she was 12. And I've been going to the gynecologist since I was 12. And, they were hesitant. And, oh, maybe she doesn't. But at this point, my mom had enough of the shit. So they did it. And, of course, I have, they said, well, she has endometriosis. And they went in and they kind of scraped it. So they'll go in and they scrape it, and that'll help with the pain for a little bit. So they went in and they scraped it, and the only thing that they said was, you have endometriosis, you're gonna have bad cramps, it's scar tissue. The birth control will stop it from growing. That's it. And I was like, okay, is it gonna get any worse? He said, well, it's hard to tell. So through the years, it just got worse and worse. I would have like a good year and then a bad year, and I kept having to go back to the doctor. And then I started getting fibroids. I had fibroids. I also had cysts. So all of these things are happening. I got diagnosed with, here's my mom in the comments. She goes, laparoscopy. Laparoscopy, yes, yes. But so it just got worse and worse, and I started to develop other issues. So I also have diverticulitis, I have sciatica, and I have endo. So these are all like chronic diseases.
Wow. And
So
are they all related, or do just happen to be the case?
now I know they are.
Wow.
But I didn't. I'm just thinking I have diabetes because how I eat. I don't eat the best way. I'll admit that. So I was like, okay, maybe this is something that I have. So I had a couple. Probably I don't even know. It had to be more than 6 DNCs from my 20s to my late 30s,
You
and
said
they
six.
more than 6 D. It's called a DNC. It's a procedure where they go in and they'll scrape your endo.
Oh, wow. Wow.
They'll
You said
scrape it.
six
Yeah, it's
zero.
called a, yep, DNC. Yep, D as in
Okay,
dog.
that I heard. You said you had more than 60.
No, six.
Oh,
No, not 60. You're like, what is going on for?
okay. Continue.
The buses. Yeah, I had more than six of those. Because I also had the fibroids, so they would also go in and freeze them every time they would go in. So it would help, and then but it would just kind of keep getting worse. So I stopped the birth control because I wanted to get pregnant, and then that's when they started saying, oh well, endo can also cause fertility issues. Nobody told me that when I got diagnosed with it. So we tried a bunch of different things, didn't work, and so we made peace with that. And then just over the years, the pain just got worse. I would say the last 3.5 years, my health has been declining severely. And November of 2021, it became unbearable. I was sitting on a couch and I just got this pain out of nowhere. So I'm just thinking, I don't know, maybe it's my diverticulitis. And it got like really bad. We had an event that day I couldn't cancel because it was like the pain started the day before. So I had to tough it out. And we made it through. And then I went to the ER after. And that started 6 ER visits from November to January 4th. I know that because my daughter's birthday was on the 3rd and I was in the hospital. And I kept going, and the pain was down in my pelvic area, and it went up to my stomach and went around to my back. And when you have endometriosis, your pain is typically in your back and in your butt. And this shit was like, I couldn't walk. I just cried all the time. I was never not in pain. Like it was just intense pain. In the ER, they kept saying, oh, well, it's diverticulitis. So I would take the antibiotics, didn't go away. So I went back again. They said, oh, well, it could be a UTI. So then I took two rounds of that, and that didn't take. So I'm like, what the hell is it? And they didn't know. Basically, we don't know. No one ever, outside to the end of my last ER visit, said, hey, let's do a gynecological, let's call somebody down here. It was like the very last one. And I was like, I'm sick of this. I checked myself out, and I went to the gynecologist on my own to figure out what the hell is going on. This lady tried to convince me my husband cheated on me and I had some kind of STD or some shit. I was like, lady, I don't have any of that stuff. So she was like, well, if it's not that, then it could be your bladder. She said maybe it's like a bladder issue. So she took me, did all the tests. Of course, the test came back negative. So she said I could send you for a pelvic exam. I said, yes, do that ultrasound. So of course, these people don't have any appointments. I had to wait 2 weeks to get that. So at this point, I'm like, maybe it is my bladder. So I just started diagnosing myself with shit that wasn't even real. I'm like, maybe I got this bladder some disease or something. So I finally went to the pelvic ultrasound, and they were like, "Well, your sister tumors are there, and they're big, and that's because it was very, very painful. But they've always been there. The last 5 years they've been there, and they'll say, "Fawn, are they bothering you? Because they're not that big." And they weren't bothering me up until that point. So she was like, "Oh, it has to be your cystic tumors, and but they are endometriosis cysts because you can have those as well." So she said, "We can put you on birth control." I said, "No, I want this shit out because at this point, literally, I could not walk. I was in a damn wheelchair going to the doctor's appointments. I thought I was dying because my body was just giving out. Like my stomach would hurt, my back would hurt, my knees, my side, and I couldn't tell if it was in my sciatica or what. Or and they just kept saying the stomach. So I was like, no, I want this shit out. So she was like, "Oh well, I'm off," because she was pregnant. I was like, "I don't give a damn what you are. Send me somewhere else." So she sent me to Dr. Lee, who's an endo specialist. And I had seen endo specialists over the years, but I said the pain just wasn't this bad. So I went to see him in March. It took me 8 weeks to get an appointment. So I was in there with this man for 5 minutes, and he examined me and he said, "You have your endometriosis is out of control." I said, "What?" He said, "It has grown. It has spread to your rectum." I didn't know that that was possible. He goes, "Probably your bladder too. It's just, it's," he said, "and it's horrible. Just one exam." He said, "No one told you this?" I was like, "No, no." It didn't even come up, which really pisses me off because I have a diagnosis of it. It's on my chart. Like it's right there. And he caught it within less than 5 minutes. So he
That's
said, "We can." Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but that's what like I'm like my mind is blown because it's not like you just were diagnosed last year with endo. You've
Right.
had it, well, you've known that you've had it since you were 12.
Yeah.
It's already there. It's already being managed and has been managed for all of your life, just about.
Right.
And it took
And,
this long for this specialist. You had to advocate and push to even get to a specialist.
right. Right. For you to even get to the man to tell me
And so,
what was wrong. So he was like, "Yeah, I don't understand that either." He was like, "It's bad." He's like, "If I could do it today, I'd do it today." So I had to wait for another 6 weeks to get the date for the surgery because they were saying that since COVID, the OR was backed up, and he's there's not a lot of endo specialists, so he was booked and busy, I guess you can say. But I called every day. Finally got a date and did the surgery July 21st. It was 7 hours. It wasn't supposed to be that long. Doctor said it was one of the worst cases that he'd ever seen. My endo had just, it was like, because it's scar tissue, so it stuck to my fallopian tubes, it stuck to my rectum. And as they were taking all that out, they seen that I had an abscess that had exploded. And so they had to, of course, take care of that. And then as they were doing that, the piece that connects my bladder to my kidneys, they messed that up. Yeah. So I had to get a catheter, and I still have the stent in that they put in from that. So when I woke up from all that, because I was like out of it, and I just heard the nurses like, "This poor thing." I was like, "What happened?" What happened? So that's when they told me that the damn abscess had exploded, and that's probably where a lot of the pain was coming from. And I do have like other stomach issues. I had before the hysterectomy, I had a procedure where my stomach doctor looked at my entire stomach. I had two colonoscopies. I had an emergency one because the inflammation was so bad. And he's like, "It's probably your endo," but he wanted to make sure. I had 7 CT scans. So I said to the doctor, "Why the hell could you not see that?" And she said, "We can't see endo on, like, we can't see it. That's the problem. We don't know how to see it on imaging. It doesn't show up."
how is the endo specialist? How do they find and see? the endometriosis if it doesn't show up on all of these different scans.
They got to go inside.
So they have to physically see it.
They have to go inside, and that's why they have to do the lapo to diagnose you, because they have to go and yeah, my mom's like, it's called a laparoscopy.
No, that's right, mom. You need to
But
know.
yeah, they can only go inside. So I just don't think that's an excuse. We can clone sheep now. We can do all kind of shit. So you mean to tell me that we can't see endo on the imaging? So she was like, no, that's why. She said it had stuff, and it pissed me off because I have been to the ER so many times. I have a diagnosis. You would think they would have said
Right.
maybe your endo is hiding something. I mean, because if I didn't do that surgery, I would be dead.
That's insane.
It would have, and it might have exploded in November. I don't know
Wow.
when all of this started, but I definitely wouldn't be here. So I mean, it pisses you off because it's like, as an advocate myself, a long time advocate for other people, it's like, God damn, do I have to advocate for every breath of my life? And the answer is yes. If I didn't say anything, I'd be dead. Really, that's what it comes down to. So, um, please speak up, make them listen to you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Anybody walking around in this much pain, you say what the fuck you want to say, and you say it how you want to say it, and make them listen to you. Call every day if you need to get an appointment. If you have to go, because UPMC is also in Erie. If you got to go somewhere else, go somewhere else. But fight for yourself, and this whole black woman strong shit. You really got to get rid of that. Because I've had this for several years, and I've told people about it, and there's, oh, you got it, Fawn. And when I tell you that, when that shit hit I was in pain from November to April. He put me on a drug to put me in early menopause until I got the surgery.
Someone that posted, what would you say to folks who may be experiencing symptoms but do not know what it looks like or even what it is?
Um, so some of the common symptoms would be your period. If you're getting bad pain during your period, then that's a huge sign that you have endometriosis. If you're having fertility issues, if you have bowel issues. So after all of my recent stuff, because at this point I had there's stages to it. So when I first got diagnosed, I was probably in like stage 1 or 2. I'm in stage 4 at this point. So um, the bowel issues, the really bad cramps, heavy bleeding is another one that people might be able to recognize. If your pain is in your back and your butt, more than likely you have endometriosis. Because if it's down in those particular areas, then more than likely you have it. And then that's when you need to go and say something to your doctor. Demand that they have this test to make sure that you don't have it, and keep at it. Birth control did help me for a little bit, but there's effects of being on that stuff long term that I'm sure have crept up to me now. But knowing what I know now, I know that, like, because I have IBS and I have diverticulitis, that a lot of that was being caused by the endo. I'm not sure how long this endo has been in my rectum. Could have been 6, 7 years. I don't know. I don't know how long that it's been there, because my endo doctor said the pain that I was having should have prompted the gynecologist to say, hey, let's look at that, because that's a symptom. So that's another thing to look for. If you are having pain in your pelvic area and you have other conditions, don't let them just say, hey, it's that condition. Because come to find out that it was the endo that was literally inside of my rectum. It was also affecting my bladder, so I would get a lot of UTIs. That's another symptom. I mean, I got 5 to 6 of them a year, and I was like, hey, it's me. I'm not drinking enough water, but it's a sign. So now I have, bladder issues and shit, because it was so bad that they had to that piece, the damage, the kidney to the bladder. So yeah, those are definitely some of the symptoms that people should look for, and it comes at any age too.
Wow. I want to jump back to something you said. So, in very deeply, my husband and I, we had a real deep, long conversation, expansive conversation around the softness, like the softness movement, which is really like, encouraging Black women to kind of put down the strong narrative, because
Yeah.
it's been so harmful. Like, understanding that, like, we didn't choose to pick up the strong narrative, we had to. Um, but, like leaning into not being strong
Hmm.
at our own expenses, right? That's super important. But I can't help but to also think about what I heard you say, that it was so bad, but because you had an event the next day, that you still went and thugged it out at that event. And when you said that, like, I felt a pit in my stomach, like, especially as deep this has gotten, like, like your life is literally on the line, and having to choose to do the work, right? Like, and it's not like you're a banker and you could be like, I'm calling off today. Like, like the work that you do is so important to so many other people, right? Being a servant of people, that you didn't really have the space, didn't feel like you had the space to not do. Or at least that's what popped in my mind, when you said it. Uh, how did you feel about experiencing all of this pain, but still showing up in the way that you do?
Honestly, I was used to it. I mean, I've been doing it my entire life. To be honest, I've had this shit since I was 12. So I'm used to it. I was used to it. It didn't even like stop my mind to not do it because I've gotten so used to managing it on my own. Um, but I didn't even connect it with endo. I just thought it was maybe my diverticulitis or something, or maybe I had pulled something. But I've gotten so used to it. I mean, I shouldn't have, but I had. I've gotten used to kind of doing it. And this was like I said, the last 3.5 years, my health hasn't been the best. But I've also been doing a lot of self reflection and seeing how like me doing that was internal ableism. Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I'm gonna just go and work myself to death. That's stupid as hell. So now I recognize that. Like, no, I can't be doing that. But I definitely have over the years have just kind of and it comes from a lot of different things. Like I said, I've told some people, but there's this thing with strong people is people don't typically listen when they tell them stories like this,
Girl.
and or they'll forget, right? And then they'll be like, and they'll ask you another couple months later, like, you never told me. I actually did tell you. I actually poured my heart out to you, and I did tell you, and there was no reaction, or you just said, you got, go get them, girl, and then that was it. So it comes from a lot of those different feelings. But through therapy, I've been able to recognize that I need to feel things and have better boundaries, but then also for myself, because if I treat myself like I'm a warrior, everybody gonna treat me like I'm a warrior, and I
Yeah.
am not. I am not, and just being sick these last few years has showed me, a lot of my relationships were tied to labor.
Mm, mm,
What I can do for you, what I can do for other
mm,
people, is when they would call.
mm,
But everybody kind of knows something's going on with me the last few years
mm.
because I've been kind of taking a step back, which even for me didn't look like taking a step back,
Right, right.
but it was just because the pain was like
Yeah.
it. I really thought I was just dying. I thought that I had worked myself. I said I've done myself in. I've worked myself to a level where I'm just slowly because everything was just slowly falling down, and the very first person to give me any relief outside of my endo doctor with those shots was a bladder specialist. And I went to see her and she said, you have muscle spasms in your vagina. And I said, no, what the hell is that? How is that possible? But she said that's where the pain is coming from. So I'm sitting there like, what the hell? And I'm thinking like I've stressed myself out to have this, but it was the endo.
Right.
So I had to go see like a physical therapist to literally help massage
Yeah.
out. Like
I want to
therapy.
continue. I want to continue to get into this, but I want to take a short break. So we're gonna have this commercial break, and then we'll be back.
Okay. I can't hear you.
I was just talking to myself on my mute.
Okay.
Welcome back. We are here with Fawn Walker-Montgomery. She is sharing her endometriosis journey, which has been absolutely harrowing if you have not heard. Fawn, how are you feeling right now?
Um, I'm better. It's a day by day process. The surgery was way more than I expected it to be. I didn't expect to like. I mean, it's a lot to process when you almost die,
Mm,
and it's like you like like my mouth saved my life.
mm,
That's just a lot to process. I just thank God for giving me the strength to advocate. I thank God for putting the right doctors in the right place at the right time.
yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely, I can talk about it. Yeah, it was a lot. Honestly, it hit me like a few days later. And I just broke down with my husband, like, what the fuck?
Mm,
And he was like, sharing, him and my mom in the waiting room, like getting all these updates, like, why is this taking so long?
mm, mm.
So it was a lot on my family, a lot on myself. I'm in therapy, so that's helpful. Because I feel like I'm always sick at this point. Like after the surgery, I had the catheter, and these damn doctors. I went to take it out. He didn't tell me that the test he wanted me to get the next day, I needed it in, so they had to put it in and take it right back out.
Those are painful, aren't they?
It hurt. It hurt like it hurt so bad. I'm screaming, and they're like, "Why would he tell you to take it out?" It just literally goes to show like the lack of patient care. And it's like every time some shit happened, of course I'm going to think it's medical racism. Like after the surgery I just went through, why would you think anybody could put a catheter in and take it out and withstand that kind of pain? So of course I got a UTI from that, and then I got another UTI. I don't know where that came from. I don't know. I still don't know where that shit came from. So now I'm finishing up my second round of antibiotics. So there's those issues. I still have the stent in. So I'm hanging on day by day. It helps. The therapy helps. My blog is helping. I know when I was going through it, and I felt like I was crazy. Different parts of my life, I would go on YouTube, and then I would just type in, endometriosis, Sumer's cyst, and see what other women are feeling about it and how they're talking about it. But it has been a struggle, um, needing other people. I am not used to needing other people this much or asking for help or to the point where I literally, but like I can't do it. Like God brought me to a place where like I can't. I literally like I had to ask for help because I physically could not do it. So that has been different. It is a different experience to have your child change your piss bag. That was a lot for me.
Wow, that
So it
that's
was,
that sounds.
yeah,
I actually can't imagine it. I cannot physically imagine it.
yeah.
You had said, I mean, it's been all of your life pretty much, but in the last 3 or so years, has been like a steep decline. Has
Mhm.
there been any impact on your mental and emotional health with dealing with these things, plus all of the other things around?
Oh yeah. I have depression and anxiety. I've had it for years, and it's definitely helps a lot, especially that no one ever believes you or listens to you, and everybody's out to get you. And most times they are, unfortunately, in the kind of work I do, anyway, in activism. Yeah, the anxiety worsened because I'm telling you I'm in pain. But I mean, I've had doctors tell me maybe it's in your head. We're not seeing anything. Maybe it's your stomach. I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, so I'm just supposed to be in pain. I've had them say, yeah, yeah. Literally recommend me go see a psychiatrist.
Wow, wow. And so you're feeling this physical, like excruciating pain, and
Yeah,
being told that it's all in your head. Why don't you go and get checked out? Because it's clearly your emotional state that's
yeah,
common.
yeah.
Mm,
And just not them. Also, people like people around me know. I have it. But it was kind of like, oh, that's what you on your period, right? That's what you get. You get bad cramps.
mm,
I wish it was just bad cramps. It's a fucking horrible disease.
mm,
Um, I just decided. I said I'm going to fight this like I fight for everybody and everything else. I'm going to fight for fun, and that's what I've done. Somebody had asked in the comments about the symptoms, and I just wanted to go over them again.
sure.
So the start would be if you have really bad periods that consist of bad pain in your pelvic area, vomiting, passing out, can't keep any food down, heavy bleeding. Like I said, pain in the pelvic area, pain in your lower stomach, a lot of UTIs, a lot of bladder issues, or a lot of rectum issues. Like if they say you have IBS, diverticulitis, those are some of the things that you should look for. And somebody also asked, like, what kind of support. Listen to people when they tell you. Listen to Black women when they're telling you these things. I mean, a lot of people post all the time. Listen to Black women, or let's fight for, like, Serena. Like, I love Serena, I do. But like, are you fighting for the own Serenas in your life? Are you listening to them when they tell you they're in pain? Like, if you have a loved one with endo, or you think they have it, the most important thing is to support them, to listen to them when they're talking to you about it. Don't make them feel crazy. If you go to the doctors with them and be there when they're advocating, maybe back them up, support them. Some things that have helped: heating pads. Buy them a heating pad. We need a lot of them
Mm,
because that's one of the only things that help. Any kind of heat makes it feel better. Any kind of heat at all. Unfortunately, pain pills don't work for endometriosis.
mm,
They laugh at them, and that's it. They don't work. I've tried all that you could think of. Um, the two Tylenol and Motrin combo works a little bit, but when you consistently take pain meds and that gives you rectum issues, like you can't go to the bathroom, you get stopped up, it messes with your stomach.
Wow.
There was a point where, like, when it first started, I was taking about 12 Tylenol a day
Mm,
just to make it through, and it just wasn't working. So I started CBD,
okay.
edibles, all of those things. Now that helped.
Okay.
That helped. So, like, if you know someone experiencing that, um, and I don't know whatever views you have on CBD or whatever, if you in that kind of pain,
Yeah.
um, that helps. And that was my husband's recommendation just from seeing me here
Mm,
the way I was looking. So that was extremely helpful. Any kind of medical marijuana, marijuana, CBD, all of that was really helpful, like extremely helpful.
I want to quickly shout out your husband, George. Brett has been absolutely A1. I mean, in the few times that we've been able to thankfully cross paths, he is Fawn's number one fan, up and down. Like, if she look like she thirsty, he right there with the water, child.
Yes, he is. He's amazing. He's been like, oh my goodness, he's been, him, my mom, my daughter, like my husband. He's really been my rock throughout this whole um, journey because he met me with it,
Mm-hmm.
and
He's
he's like, I didn't know like it could get to the like right that it's like growing other things. So yeah, thank you, babe.
yes, big shout out to him. It's so important to have a supportive community, a compassionate community, right? Like, and that type of pain, I would imagine, manifests in so many different ways, like, but in ways on you so heavily, right? And the point that you had made that, like, we like to say, like, oh, support Black women, believe Black women, whatever. But what does that look like in practice, right? Like, when it's not Serena Williams, what does that actually look like for the women in your life, the Black women in your life? In all different ways, because I don't see it in practice as much as I see it being said. Um, so anyway, so yeah, definitely put to practice those supports, and thank you for sharing the different ways that are actively supported. So the heating pads, the listening, the showing up, the coming to the doctor's visits. That makes me think about the fact that you had to self advocate, even with your mountain of support, you still had to self advocate in the medical system, right? Like, which is a lot, especially when it is your mode to support other people. It is not necessarily your mode to seek support for yourself, which I know is a lot of heavy lifting. It's emotional labor, like it's labor.
Hmm.
Um, and so when we started, before we started the show, I was thinking about, or I was telling you that I thought that this was a thing that impacted Black women specifically, or more prevalent, more so impacted Black women. But as I did my short research, it's not that. It just impacts it just impacts women across the
Yes,
board, as it seems. Is that
yes,
right?
yes. It impacts everyone, women. But like we were saying when we first came on, if America gets a cold, we get the flu. So of course, there's disparities. There's already disparities in the healthcare system. There's already medical racism, medical apartheid. So this just adds. This is just another disease to add on to people not believing Black women. But it affects all women,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. I've heard white women tell me, they didn't listen to me. They thought that I was crazy. Sent me to a psychiatrist. So it's and it baffles me because it's one of the most understudied diseases. But
Mm-hmm.
like, why is it studied? Why is it not studied like AIDS and cancer? So many women have this.
Right.
Like, a lot of, I talk to doctors and nurses that have this, and I just think overall, when it comes to women's reproductive health, they just don't know what the hell to do. They were asking me to do things like 2 days after I had the surgery. I'm like, I can't even. No woman, no woman that has that kind of surgery should be doing anything. I
Mm-hmm.
had people tell me, "Oh, 2 to 4 weeks." No, I'm still messed up. I'm thinking January, or maybe I just will be different moving forward, which is okay. I'm alive,
Right.
and blessed for that. But yeah, it affects all women, and sometimes it's hereditary. Um, but they don't know enough about it to say that. They know that, like you said, 7 times more likely if your mom has it, but that doesn't mean that that's why you have it.
right,
There's no research out there that shows that, oh, she got it because her mom had it. Like, all they know is that's something similar in the people that have it.
right, right. Correlation is not causation.
Right.
Um, Absolutely. So, you have mentioned a couple things. So you have mentioned that going on YouTube and looking up
Yeah.
endometriosis and hearing other women talk about their experience was
Mhm.
helpful for you. Um, a note of why we even had this podcast in the first place is because, like, there are plenty of invisible circumstances that we all go through, but it's not public, right? Like, mainstream society doesn't value it enough to highlight those stories, and then you end up feeling alone. And so, not only did you seek other women on, on YouTube, etc., to hear their stories, to validate and understand your own, you went and started your own blog. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I just remember feeling alone throughout different parts of my life. I had my mother, thank God, and she had endometriosis. But just the older I got and I became my own woman as an adult, going to some of these doctors, and I can't drag my mom to something. And sometimes I wasn't even living in this state. I wasn't here. So um, I just wanted an opportunity for other women to maybe hear the story and maybe make it connect, because some of those days can get really dark. I mean, you contemplate, like, this point, I think I'm dying. So I'm like, I'm just, there's days I just gave up. And I know people would be like, oh, phones. Yeah, I just was like, you know what? Go ahead. If you're going to take me out of here, take me out of here. Because I was just like, I can't physically do this shit no more. So I would go on to YouTube and hear other stories, and it would help. Okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. This woman went through the exact same thing. So it was very helpful for my own mental health, because, like I said, some of those days, and like I said, I had my husband. He was rocking with me, but I was just like, maybe I've just done too much to myself. So the days would get very dark. So that's when I would go on there, and then after the surgery, where it almost took me out, I said, I have to do this. Like, people have to know what to say, what to look for, to continuously advocate. It's my duty, because it's our duty to fight for our freedom and our duty to win. Like, it all connects. This, to me, connects with movement building and all that other work I do. So I was like, I gotta say something to help somebody else, help somebody out. Yeah, and somebody, I just seen a little bit of the comment, definitely felt that way, suicidal throughout this process. And it wasn't suicidal of me doing something to myself. It was just me not fighting it anymore. Like, fuck it. I'm just, do what you gonna do. Have your way, kind of thing. I was like that for a good month. And I appreciate my husband for letting me have that time and not giving me the, oh, you gotta be strong. Don't give up. Like, he was just like, all right, let me just have her. I tried to hide it from my daughter when she's 18. I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was been at the most vulnerable in my life the last, 11 months.
Wow. Would you say
So,
that you've experienced or developed trauma after all of this?
oh yeah, definitely. I hate doctors. I've always hated doctors, um, because they just don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I have to find a good one and, um, get with them until they do something to piss me off, and then go into the next one. So I definitely have trauma behind doctors, behind hospitals. I don't like to go there alone, because I think they're gonna kill me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel like these fuckers gonna try to take me out of here. So somebody needs to be there if I can't speak up.
And the sad part is that that's a very real fear. Like, all the stories of Black women going to the doctor, going to the ER, and they don't make it back home because they were not taken seriously, just for not being taken seriously. It wasn't like it's the neglect. It's also the actual abuse, but it's also like the neglect. We show up and we say, "This is what's going on," and then we're told, "No, it ain't." Like, go home. Like, you're making it up,
Right.
and then we
Right.
don't take it home. So that's a very real fear, and the fact that it's been validated by your actual experience is horrifying.
It is. It is. It's like not much you can even say after that. It's like, God damn, like these people really out here trying to like take me out. And like I'm explaining everything that's happening. Like I have, that's another people can do. I have a journal. I
Mm,
kept a journal with the dates and the pain and everything. I can go back and I can say, look, um, this is what I'm experiencing. And when you do that, like make them look at that damn journal. They
mm-hmm,
have my UPMC now. You can scan them damn pages and I send it over.
mm,
And I'm like, this is what I'm feeling today.
mm.
So yeah, write all that down and help. But yeah, it's a lot to process.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those doctors that's been traumatizing. On top of the PTSD I already have from the
Right,
kind of work I do,
right.
adding this to and just not being listened to by these damn doctors, and even after with the catheter, I'm like, that's patient care. You would call somebody before they come down and explain to them, but they didn't.
That's wild. That is
Hmm.
wild. So I know in your journey, you have found at least some resources locally.
Hmm.
What have you been able to find so that other women in the Allegheny County area can
Hmm.
also access them?
So in our area, we do have a couple of clinics that are geared just for endometriosis. We have the Endo and Chronic Pelvic Pain Center. That's in McGee. And then there's the Endo Center for Fertility. And I can't say the other words, so I'm not going to make it up. So those are two clinics. Dr. Ted Lee is my doctor, but Dr. Donald, she's also very good for endometriosis. There's several different doctors within those two clinics that I just named that you can call. A gynecologist, unfortunately, just won't do it. If you
Wow,
have it, if you feel like you have it, sometimes you have to go see the gynecologist. Depends on your insurance to get to an endo specialist, but go see an endo specialist. Don't even waste your time with these damn gynecologists
wow,
because they'll have you thinking it's other things and have you on birth control your whole life. And then Endo Black has been another one that is an advocacy organization that is focused on bringing awareness to Black women who have endometriosis. So they've been around, I'm not sure how long, I think maybe 6 or 7 years. So um, I was excited because I was like, oh, this is wonderful. There's an organization out here bringing some awareness to endometriosis for Black women, which is important um, because we always have to, in this conversation with feminine and all that other stuff, we have to separate ourselves sometimes so people can understand the nature of the disparities that we go through. And this is the first org I've seen out here just exclusively talking about how it affects Black women. Of course, it affects all women, but it affects us, and then already the disparities in the medical system as it is, and this is a pain disease.
mm,
So, oh, you got it because there was a research study that said that doctors feel like Black women can put up with more pain. And being a Black woman and going to the doctors, they honestly believe this shit. Like they believe that you can deal with it. You got it.
mm-hmm.
It's okay. Take this Tylenol. We're never allowed to be the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Black women are never allowed to be the victim, and I'm so over that. We are victims. Things happen to us, and it's okay to be a victim. Like people say, I don't want the victim mentality. Ain't nothing wrong with recognizing that some fucked up shit didn't happen to
Right.
you. And you have to process that and move on how you see fit. Another thing that people have been talking about with endo is a lot of natural resources. Eating better is a huge way to kind of curb endometriosis, like fresh fruits and berries, a vegan diet um, are really good ways to kind of curb that. So I wish somebody would have told me that years ago. They just told me I need to lose weight and eat better for my own health. But if they'd connected it with this pain, I would have thought about it a little differently if I would have known that just eating differently and doing things more naturally. So that's another way. There was a lady I found on YouTube. She could grow her food, and that's what helped her condition because she had like cysts and tumors. So that's another way that people have been talking a lot about. I wish they would throw marijuana into the conversation especially the medical marijuana. I wish people would look at that more for treating endo, because it was really the only thing that helped with my pain was the CBD, nothing else. And then I didn't have to worry about taking all of this medicine I was taking, which causes other things with your stomach because it eats your stomach up. And then it got to the point where I wasn't eating because when I would eat, I'd have to go to the bathroom, which would make my stomach hurt, which would make my rectum hurt. So if people see me like, oh, you look great. It's not that I look great because I was in here dieting. It's because I was sick and I'm trying to eat different now. But I barely eat now because the pain is better. I would say it went from a 15 to like a 4, but it's still there because I have all these other stomach issues. And hysterectomy does not mean the endometriosis is gone. I had the full hysterectomy, but there's no cure for endometriosis. So, can it come back? Yes, it is rare. But if there was any nodule left, because they call them nodules of the endo. If there was any one of those left, it grows its own cells. That's what kind of damn disease it is. So if there was any of those left, it can possibly just start to regrow. I'm not claiming it got everything out. I just don't want women to think that that's like an end all be all, because it's not. Because anything can happen with it. There is no cure for it. Now, if they started to study it more, they may be able to find out more ways to treat it.
I'm gonna put up one more time as Endo Black.
Hmm.
Again, emphasizing that there needs to be space that's separate for us, and that's just because of medical apartheid and the way that our country and society is set up. We tend to get the last. And what you had said earlier, Fawn, before we started the show, is that white women eventually they will get help. White and non-black women will, but we will get the last of it, which is just that's just how society is set up unless we step up for ourselves. So I encourage any woman who is experiencing endometriosis, knows someone who's experiencing it, or think that they may, to hook up with this organization here.
Hmm.
Um, Also, definitely check out Fawn's blog. It's Fawn Montgomery. It's on YouTube, so you can follow her journey and seek support yourself the same way that she was able to seek support in those moments where like she felt like she didn't have anywhere to turn. She turned to YouTube and found other women experiencing the same. You can do that, and she is actively sharing her experience through the lens of a Black woman. Fawn, is there anything else that you want to share? And I want to thank you so very much for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me. Um, just to Black women, like just let yourself rest. If you're sick, like don't go. Rest and try to figure out what is going on with your own body. We are the experts of our own pain. I say that all the time. We know ourselves better than anybody knows us. So listen to that intuition when something isn't right. Listen to that, and just let yourself be whatever you need to be to get through. Just talking to other women about this, like I didn't know that all these other women had it because Black women, we don't share our stories enough.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of a business capitalism lens, we don't talk enough about what's going on with us. We talk about our husbands or like our businesses, or what do we do for a living, but like our health. And when I started to talk, I'm like, I didn't know you had it. I didn't know you had it. I didn't know you had a hysterectomy. Like, we're not having these conversations, I think, because we have bought into
Mm-hmm.
the whole Black woman strong stuff, which is really rooted in white supremacy. We've caught on to it. Like we believe that, so we don't even talk to each other. So we just need to talk to each other more, support more, share stories. Some people knew I had it, but it wasn't something that I was always comfortable sharing. Nobody really asked either, because they're looking at me for my labor, right?
Mm.
For who I am as Fawn.
As a person.
So, just man, fight for yourself, advocate for yourself. We matter.
Yes.
We deserve to be here. We are more than our labor. We are more than being productive.
Mm.
We are more than being strong. That would be something I would say to Black women. It's okay to be vulnerable and to just, and damn it, we human. Shit.
Period. Period. We're a person. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing today with us, Fawn. I really appreciate you being first show back out. This has been super, super resourceful, really supportive, really helpful, really painful. But I very much appreciate you taking the time, not only with us, but to share out your story for all of the women in our supporters in the world. It's super necessary that we do this.
Yes, it is. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Most definitely. All right. So thank you all for joining us for the first episode back of the See Us podcast. This podcast highlights the voices of the invisible, the stories untold, and the people unseen. Please join us again. We're going to do this every Sunday, typically every Sunday live if we can. If not, it'll be pre-recorded. But I do appreciate you all sticking with us and being witness to our stories. So check you out next week.